Hello and welcome. This was meant to be a live stream onto YouTube, but there were tech troubles, so it was not working, and therefore I've just jumped on here now. So apologies to anybody who was waiting to join me on the live stream on YouTube. Those who are on my newsletter list, you have had the Zoom, but of course you're not going to hear me say this right now to know that that's happening. But those who are on my newsletter list, you have got the Zoom details. I do look forward to anybody joining me who can make it live right now. If not, then there's going to be this recording, which will go up on my YouTube. So apologies to anybody here on YouTube as you see this, who was waiting for that live stream and wondering where on earth it had gone. So top tip, if you're not already, get onto my newsletter list so that if anything like this is to happen again, you've at least got all the communication to be able to join wherever the thing is happening. So thank you for being here and for watching this. I'm here today to talk about why the MACE energy method is such a time-saving way to solve your emotional problems. And I know this for a fact because I have spent over 10 years and probably by now over £70,000 on trying to solve my emotional problems. And so what I'm going to be telling you about today is why and how the MACE energy method shortcuts this, and therefore why going to the MACE energy method first rather than last, as I did, is the way to go and is going to shortcut your journey. It's going to save you so much time and money. And so I'm going to share some slides so that I can talk you through a little bit of the context as to why you'd even want to engage in the MACE energy method, and also then share where the MACE energy method sits in the context of all the different modalities and approaches that are out there right now. Because as far as I see it, there's a minefield of possibilities. There's been this explosion of all these different ways with the kind of normal ways that there had been for a number of years before. And then now there's been this explosion of all these kind of more spiritual ways and more, some potentially woo-woo ways. But there's just this plethora now available, so much in the mainstream that never used to be before. And to me, it makes it a really hard place for a consumer to be making informed decisions. Because if you don't know that, if it's not your area of expertise, then how do you know what to do or how to do it? It's like when, oh, we've got somebody joining here. I've just thought I should pin myself. How do I pin myself? Oh, yes, here. There we go. And then anybody who's joining can come in. Thank you for being on mute there, lovely. I'm now pinned, so you won't pop up on the screen anyway. But yes, so I was saying it's a minefield as far as I can see it in the world of being able to choose what's the right thing for you to do. And we've had this experience, I've had this experience direct recently. We've had a number of tradespeople who've been working with us on various bits of our house. And there's been such a contrast between the tradespeople who come and just say, oh, I think we should do X. And you're kind of like, okay, because I don't know any better. And then the other tradespeople who say, well, you could do A and this would be the implication of that, or you could do B and this would be the implication of that. And then it's like, amazing. Now I understand more context. Now I can make an informed choice with you and taking advice from the expert who actually knows about these things, rather than just, just do X. That's just the thing to do. So my intention today is to share these slides, share this context, so that you have a good sense for yourself of the marketplace you're operating in when you're wanting to solve your emotional problems, and therefore putting you in a much stronger position to be able to sense and tell and recognize what you need and when you need it. Because everything I'm going to be talking about today has value. The key thing and the real true recognition for me around this is when you engage in these things, if you want to have them make the biggest impact for you. Okay, so I'll start by sharing some slides. Here we go. And this is just a little bit of context. If you're brand new to my world, you might not know the kind of stuff I talk about, but broadly I'm talking about all the places in life where things are going on that we don't like, and why and how the MACE energy method solves those problems so that you can have an enjoyable life. So on this slide, we've got some data from WHO, the Gallup, and an American Institute of Stress. Some clear signals of what's going on, how it feels when you're out of your power. I'm all about empowering people back to feel in charge of their own lives. So this experience of feeling out of your power means that you're experiencing this lack of clarity. You're experiencing this feeling of unhappiness in some way. Now, it might be at work, but it might be at home. It might be if you're your own boss. It might be with clients. It might be with investors. It might be with the market. It might be with the political landscape. We can get unhappy about anything and everything. And currently we've got, I would probably say this is higher than that number if we were to look at it across the whole spectrum of your whole life rather than just your work aspect. Then we've got people who are getting burned out. So 67% from this survey, which is not a huge surprise, people who are going, and then collapsing because they've overdone it, they've overworked their system, because they've shut down from all the natural signals that say, have a rest now, take a break now. When we're in that overdrive place, we just switch off from all of that. And ultimately our physical system tells us, no, God damn it, you're going to stop, and has us get that experience of burning out. A clear sign of not being in your power. There's also, oh my goodness, chronic distraction. Oh, how much is this such a challenge and a problem these days? People are so frequently now talking about the impact of their phone, other devices, work being so accessible all the time, and we're blaming the tech for that. So we're therefore looking at solutions of trying to put tech away or manage or control tech, and we'll talk about this a lot more in a minute. But this chronic distraction is a symptom of emotional problems. It's not just distraction for the sake of distraction. It's not the phones that have caused us to be distracted. They've simply amplified what was already there. And then we've got a really, really high number of people experiencing stress. So 84% of people experiencing stress, which is just, frankly, not surprising, but also to me quite scary that that's the world. Like, this is how the world's operating. This is the level of consciousness. This is the level of awareness. This is the level of capability and power that people are operating in their lives from every single day. And so is it any wonder that there are more mental health concerns? Is it any wonder that people are, like in here, getting burnt out? Is it any wonder that relationships are feeling the strain? Of course not, because this is all going on. This is all what people are experiencing every single day. Hence people getting triggered left, right, and centre at the drop of a hat. And for me, that's not okay. We can't keep going the way that is right now. So what's the alternative? How can we be? Let me see if I can get my slide to move. There we go. So when you're in your power, fundamentally, you feel energized. There is like this innate source of energy and aliveness and, yeah, energy. Oh, another lovely guest. Welcome. So, and welcome to you who arrived. Sorry, I didn't acknowledge you when you got here earlier. So, yes, when we are in our power, we have this natural source of energy, with this natural flow of energy. And that leads to these outer experiences of feeling resilient and responsible, feeling connected to ourselves and to others, feeling curious and creative, confident and capable. And confidence is something that so many people want to shift. I want to feel more confident in my relationship. I want to feel more confident as this leader. I want to feel more confident in this next move with my business. I want to feel more confident in my investment choices. Confidence is so fundamental to so much of what we do. And calm and clear. It's another thing I hear a lot from clients when they talk about how they want to feel or be at the end of the process. I want to feel calm. I want to feel at peace is a really, really common phrase. We all know how we want to feel. Everything people share with me at the beginning of their session, how they want to feel, is based in this. All of these words are what come out, or variations of. We all know. We all know exactly how we want to feel or be. And the thing that takes us off track is negative identities. That's the thing that most significantly takes us off track. That is the thing that most significantly knocks us out of this space of power into that space of not power, into stress, into burnout, into overwhelm, into distracted. And so the Mace Energy method handles these negative identities. I'm going to talk a lot more about this in the context of the rest of that that marketplace I talked about a moment ago, the whole marketplace of how we help ourselves to feel better in the world and in ourselves. primarily in ourselves, because it all comes from there. We all want to feel more of this. And I'm going to share now about why the Mace Energy method is the way to go to shortcut so much of what I did and to really save yourself so much money. So let me move to the next slide. Yeah, so just ask yourself that question. Do you want this? Do you actually want to feel this energized, alive, confident, capable, calm, creative, all that good stuff? Do you want that? In your heart, I know for 100% sure your heart's going, yes, 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 yes. Now, the intellect might have different ideas and opinions about that. I really encourage you to listen to your heart instead. So, options of how we solve these chronic problems of stress and overwhelm and burnout and all the rest of it. So this is giving you an overview, a very, I mean, the marketplace is vast and multifaceted. So this is one set of lenses through which to view this marketplace of ways to solve our emotional problems. This one I'm going to use to talk through each of these ways, each of these categories of how we can solve our emotional problems. And of course, talking about the Mace Energy method within that, and we will come to that. And what I want you to hold in your awareness for this is the metaphor of a garden. We're going to amplify that in the next slide when I come onto that. But I want you to hold in your mind the metaphor of a garden as what we're doing here. And that all the stuff that was on that first slide, all the difficulties, the challenging emotional experiences, the reactivity, the triggering, I want you to consider those to be weeds. And I want you to consider all the stuff on that second slide, all the amazing possibilities of energy and aliveness and abundance and creativity and connection, all the good stuff. That's your beautiful, bountiful garden. That's the flourishing plants and flowers and trees, and everything's overflowing with beauty and brilliance. And you'll come to see more about that in a minute, but just consider that as the visual metaphor for what we're talking about here. I'll perhaps drop it in here as well to just amplify that as we move through this. So what we tend to do when we have an emotional problem, what we tend to do is jump for what we think is the easiest solution. And now whether this is something we've been trained into, I don't know. But I've noticed that we tend to think the easiest solution is to consume something. So somebody messaged me yesterday about a product that they've got, which is actually a CBD product. Now, I don't even drink caffeine or alcohol. The chances of me having a CBD product are really, really low because I genuinely do not feel the need to put anything into my system to alter how I feel. It's just not necessary. From everything I've done for myself, working on my inner world, I don't need that stuff. I have a natural source of energy and power within me. I don't need to compensate in any way by raising my mood or lowering my mood, by boosting my focus or settling any anxieties down. It's like it's just not relevant anymore. But that is the thing societally we tend to first go for. Oh, I'm feeling a bit low. What could I take? What could I eat? What could I drink? And hence why the first port of call tends to be this compensation category, where we will reach for a coffee or an energy drink or alcohol, or now more and more people are microdosing with mushrooms. Now, in and of themselves, these things aren't inherently wrong. There's no, I don't share these things. I don't share any of these things as a, you shouldn't do this, this is shameful, this is wrong. None of these are being shared in that context. These are all being shared as possibilities. And what I'm going to be showing you is the role they're playing for you and why I encourage the opposite way round from what most of the world are doing. So, as I say, most of the world are feeling bad, feeling low, feeling reactive, feeling negative in some way, and reaching for something to consume. Oh, if I could just have a glass of wine, I'd feel so much better. Oh my God, I'm so tired, I really need a coffee. We just reach for the thing that looks like the instant quick fix. And as we well know, any quick fix, like reaching for a coffee, will increase our tolerance to coffee so that over time, the coffee has less and less and less effect. And we need more and more of it to actually get that feeling of aliveness. In fact, I remember a number of years ago reading some research which said, ultimately, after having coffee for a while, coffee doesn't actually raise you up, it gets you to base level. So that when you first have coffee, it's like, here's my base level. You first have it, you're like, oh, a nice little lift from that coffee. But then over time, it depletes your base level. So that having a coffee just brings you back up to what was your normal. And as your base level depletes and depletes, you then need more and more coffee just to bring yourself back up to what was your starting point normal. You're never actually going above the line. All you're doing is bringing yourself up to that original baseline normal. And this is what happens with anything from outside of us that we use. And I know we think of using in the context of drugs, but really we do this with everything. We use coffee, we use alcohol, we use energy drinks, and anything that we use in that way as a compensating mechanism, if I do this, then I'll feel better, it's always going to end up in some level of addiction, usually, and in not actually helping in the way that it was originally intended. That's why heroin addicts ultimately overdose, because they need more and more heroin to get the effect. It's literally the same with anything that we reach for as a compensating mechanism for how we feel. So that's category 1, these compensation opportunities. Again, remember, I'm not shaming here. These are all possible. And I'm going to bring these back into context of how they can be used healthily or consumed healthily. So the next step we tend to take, once we've tried the compensation stuff, the next step we tend to take is this second category of suppressing or avoiding. And trust me, I'm saying all of this from first-hand experience. This is literally like the journey I went on. So my next step was to suppress and avoid. It was to try and pretend to be positive, happy, capable, confident, even if inside I felt really insecure. In fact, going back to compensating, I used to smoke, and I remember clearly choosing to smoke because I thought I looked cooler, and therefore I thought I looked better, and therefore would fit in more and be accepted more, i.e., I thought it would help me stop feeling insecure. Of course, it didn't actually solve that problem, but that was where my thinking was at the time. So the next one, yeah, sorry, back to category 2, suppressing and avoiding. It's where, well, I'm just going to ignore that now, and I'm just going to wear this happy face, and I'm going to say everything's great, and it's all positive, and it's all good, and there's nothing wrong, and I'm totally capable, and yes, boss, I can totally do that for you, and look, I've got 3 ideas here for you, and it's all the, it's all of that. It's all the ignore what's going on the inside, just make sure you look good on the outside. As I say, they're painting nail varnish on poop. And if you were to ever try doing that, or if you even just imagine doing it, you can see that that's an endless task. There is no amount of nail varnish that you can paint on that's going to make the poop smell nicer, look nicer. It's going to crack. It's going to need repainting. It is an endless task. So yeah, but it is one that we tend to move to. And there's a lot around positive psychology, a lot around, look for the silver lining, which actually turns into toxic positivity because there's a denial of how you actually feel. It's not a genuine positivity. It's a denial of how you actually feel and replacing it with something that you think is acceptable, that you think will get you love, connection, acceptability, all of that. Oh, I see the chat. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know. See you later. So that's category 2. Category 3 is the escape category. So beginning of 2017, I started transcendental meditation. That was my beginning of my escape category. And it's, again, meditation has value, it has usefulness, but when we're using it to escape, it ultimately leads to us just finding more negativity that we're trying to escape from. It amplifies the fact there is negativity that we're trying to escape from. So, sorry, I'm just going to see I thought I had another message there. Cool. Stop being distracted by that now. So when I first went to meditation, it as a solution, as what I believed was a solution, it was because it was Ziva Meditation, Emily Fletcher. I heard Emily on a podcast saying, this will solve your stress. I was like, oh my God, amazing. I need my stress to be solved. I was so frantic. I was so stressy. I was getting so frustrated with my kids. I did not like the person I was being. And so this sounded like the perfect, what I thought was a solution. It wasn't actually a solution. what it did do was uh, lighten some layers of yuck that were in my system. What it did do was have me really get into connection with the fact there was something larger going on about who we are than just this person. Even though I had no conceptual understanding of what that was at that time, it did give me a direct experience of the fact there's something larger to who we are. But ultimately, much like that consumption stuff, it became like another addiction. I started to feel the practice of Ziva is to have to do 2 meditations a day, one in the morning and one tended to be mid-afternoon for me, 20 minutes twice a day. And what I started to notice was that because I'd so not liked the person I was prior to meditation, and then I'd seen meditation had helped because it had lightened some yuck, I then got afraid of stopping meditating. Same as somebody might get afraid if they get told you're never going to be able to drink alcohol again. You're never going to be able to drink a coffee again. People go, oh, what? What? Don't take that away from me. Like I could feel that if somebody was to say to me, you have to stop meditating, I'd have been like, no, no, I cannot stop meditating. This is keeping me on an even keel. This is keeping me like a nice person. If you take this away from me, I might go back to being that awful person I was before. So I really felt how it had become addictive. It had become like a crutch. It had become like a necessity that I had to do. There was no choice in it. There was no freedom in it. I had to do it. And that can be the same with retreats, with exercise, with yoga. I specifically put yoga because of it having that spiritual connotation and it's so prevalent now. But any exercise can be seen as like, I need this thing. I need this to escape from the day to day. In fact, my yoga teacher will even say at the end of the class, when you're in a really lovely zone and the vibe's really beautiful and everyone's in a great, great feeling, and she'll sometimes say, hold on to this feeling as you leave the room and go back into normal life. And it's that misunderstanding that we have to hold on to this feeling, which is the very, very cause of us feeling like we have to keep doing the thing. Oh my God, yes, if I don't keep doing my yoga, I'm going to never be able to hold on to that feeling. If I didn't keep doing my meditation, I'm never going to get to hold on to that feeling. And so then it becomes this escape. It's like I need to escape from the world in order to feel good. And then fingers crossed, I'll be able to hold on to some of that when I go back into life. Fingers crossed, that lovely bubble that I feel after that retreat will last longer than 24 hours. I mean, I remember going to retreats and coming home feeling lovely, but with 2 small kids within 30 minutes, it was gone and I was back into reactivity again. So, and that's the sign that these escape things aren't actually working. If you have to use the escape mechanism to cope with life, to get away from life for a bit to feel better, again, can you see it's like another addiction? I need that in order to feel okay. And so, again, nothing wrong with any of those things on that list. It all depends on where you are coming from in the utility of them. And I was absolutely coming from, I need that thing to be okay. If I can't do that thing, I won't be okay. And that is not health. That is not us in our power. So the next category, category 4, managing and coping, of which in some ways we could say all of this that we've talked about already is a form of managing and coping. But I feel these words particularly fit with this, where we bring in strategies and tactics and tools and techniques and practices and habits to try and manage or cope with negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative experiences in life. And we can end up expending so much time and energy and attention on this management and coping with rather than actually being alive and living. So, for example, mindset work, where, and actually I'll connect in the next one, reframing, if we're to reframe beliefs. Now, these could actually sit here. They can sit around category 2 as well. They can sort of hold 2 places. I'll say a bit more about why I tend to bring it in here. So this mindset work piece, this reframing piece, that if I've had some negative thought, let's find the positive. Let's look for a different angle. Let's spin it to something that rather than, oh, this is terrible and it's all awful and oh, I've failed, to turn it into, oh, but it's a learning, it's an opportunity. It is. But if you're telling yourself that in order to manage or cope with the situation, that is entirely different. It feels entirely different than genuinely knowing that this that went wrong is an absolute gift in my life. It's an absolute perfection in my life. It's a beautiful learning moment which will impact me for the rest of my days. When you genuinely feel that, that's entirely different from, oh my God, I'm so awful, I'm such a failure, but but look, there's a positive in this, there's a learning in this. Do you see how there's a connection between this category 2 and category 4? Let me just put a smile on my face and say, yay, it's okay. This is all good learning. There's no such thing as failures. It's bullshit. We cannot bullshit our emotional system. And so we end up putting a lot of time and effort into this mindset work, into trying to reframe our beliefs using mantras. If I can just tell myself I'm good enough, if I can just tell myself I'm capable enough, then I'll be okay. Notice that phrase comes up every single time. If I do this, then I'll be okay. That then I'll be okay shows that you are seeking the good feelings of who you are in something outside of you. And if those good feelings don't increase through the thing you're doing, if in fact they decrease, as we said with the coffee, it's only bringing you up to base layer. As we said with the slapping the smiley face on, it ultimately gets exhausting. As we said with the escaping, we end up needing to use meditation more and more and more in order to feel okay. With this mindset stuff, we get depleted from this effort of always trying to be positive about stuff that we actually feel terrible about. Mantras that we try and enforce on ourselves while we actually feel like a complete loser, but we try and put on this mantra of, I've got this, I'm capable, I can do it. Any of that where it actually amplifies the negative rather than amplifying the positive shows you that it's not moving you in the right direction. And I'll just talk briefly there about this pause and breathe option around manage and cope, because there's so much, and that is a big part of why this is in category 4 here. There is so much stuff now around pausing and breathing, around going to fireside chats with people to share your deep, darkest stories, around energy modalities, energy work that could clear some negativity for you, sound healing, using the voice to heal, all of which, again, can be used as a coping mechanism, as a management strategy. So that rather than just being able to flow through your day, you are ever vigilant for this, like, I remember it, this lurking fear that reaction's going to come out any minute, that doubt's going to show itself any minute. Oh my God, this vigilance for that, which then leads to this vigilance with, how am I being in the world? There's so much attention on yourself, turned in on yourself. How am I being? Is that reaction going to jump out any second? Am I going to have to pause and breathe in a moment to center myself, to bring myself back to this moment? Can you feel the on edge of that? Constantly vigilant. And then in amongst all that, when you're in a reaction, when you are ultimately taken over by a negative identity, you are not in control. That is the very, what's the word, definition of being at the effect of a negative identity. That you are not in control in that moment. And so in that moment of that negative identity taking over and the reaction happening, there is no space to pause and breathe. There is no space to do a quick bit of mindset work. You are in the whole game of that negative identity in that moment. And so then what tends to happen is, because the person hasn't done their pause and breathe and ground and center and then speak, then they start telling themselves off. Oh, well, I'm no good, am I? Oh, I'm such a failure at this pausing and breathing thing. I'm such a failure at this mindset work. I really can't do it. I'm such a nightmare. Why is it not working for me? It seems to be working for all those people out there. And so we end up layering more negativity on top. Again, notice this journey, this direction of travel with all of these categories so far, is that when we're using them from this place of, I need this in order to be okay, they are leading into more not okayness. They are all amplifying more negative by depleting you, by amplifying the yucky stuff you don't like in your life that you're trying to avoid, by amplifying the fact you can't do the stuff that's supposed to be helping you. It's just anything that amplifies the negativity shows that you're not moving in the right direction. You're not moving towards all of that good stuff in that second slide. You're moving towards more of the first slide because people are burning themselves out as well through doing things like this. So much inward attention on trying to manage your inner landscape. So let's come to category 5, which, yes, of course, is my favorite. And in a moment, I'll explain to you why I would highly, highly, highly recommend that we start flipping this chain from 1 to 5 the opposite way round. Because with the Mace Energy method, it solves the actual problem. It solves the actual problem that all of those things before, all of 1, 2, 3, and 4, we're trying to solve. And by solve, I mean solve. So I thought meditation was a solution, as in it would completely solve the problem. It wasn't until I got to the Mace Energy method I realized, oh, there is actually a thing that does literally solve the problem. Solve as in done. The negative reaction is gone. And it hasn't come back. With everything else, there was always, first of all, another level, and I will talk about that in the context of Mace because it isn't like a one and done, all solved. But there was always another level. There was always another, there was always that increasing negativity with it. There was always that sense of, well, I've dealt with that lighter layer. Now let me deal with this next layer, but oh, that's more challenging. Oh my God, this one feels worse. Let me get to and deal with that one right now. Let me get to the next layer. Oh my God, this one feels even worse than the one before. Every single layer down that I went through on this journey felt worse and worse and worse and worse. Now I thought, well, that's good. That means I'm getting closer to the core. And there is that story goes around in personal development circles of the worse it gets, like the better it is, the like the worse it is, the better work you're doing. A bit like the whole thing of like a gym, if you're doing a workout, you have to have the pain first in order to get the benefits. No pain, no gain, that thing. So we've kind of transplanted that understanding into personal development. And I totally had taken that on. Like, oh, this is oh, thank you, love. See you later. This is I thought this is taking me deeper and deeper and deeper into harder and harder stuff. Therefore, I must be on the right track. I must be moving in a good direction because it's getting worse. Like, it sounds kind of nuts now I say it, but that was literally the thinking I had, that I thought I was moving in a really good direction because it was getting worse. How fascinating. So, just checked on the time. I best crack on. Yeah, because then when I discovered the Mace Energy method, and it was like, oh no, there's something that can actually solve it, like get it gone, done, so that it actually feels better, not worse. Oh my God, well, that's amazing. Now, that doesn't mean, as I said, it's not a silver bullet, like one and done, the whole thing's dealt with. There can still be a number of negative identities in your world. I've continued to have sessions for the years since I first discovered the Mace Energy method. Sometimes it's like 5 minutes a week. Sometimes it's longer, and I've spent an hour with a practitioner still. But the fact is, I've continued to discreate stuff with the Mace Energy method because of the fact it does actually solve stuff, because of the fact it does feel better. And in fact, all that happened with all my delayering from all those previous 4 categories, all that did was expose the fact of these negative identities. I mean, that was super useful. It was really very useful to me to see, oh, there's something here that's absolutely controlling my thoughts, my feelings, my behaviors, and I have zero power over that. I have zero control over that. I could absolutely see the autopilot of it because I'd cleared away so much of the layers before. So it was a really valuable journey for me to go on. But you don't have to, because of people like me who've done it before. You get to shortcut things. So you get to go straight to the Mace Energy method. You get to solve the actual root cause of these negativities, these negative problems, delete these negative identities out of your world, And from there, well, now the landscape looks entirely different because in the absence of those negative identities, you're feeling so much more of the real you, which is all that stuff from slide 2. You're feeling so much more of that confidence, that calm, that clarity, that creativity, that connection, the energy, the aliveness. And in the feeling of all of that, now life gets better. Now you move in a positive direction. And yeah, some negativity may still come up. That's okay. You solve that too. And then you solve that and that so that you amplify all of that good stuff from slide 2. And as you do that, you may well want to move back into one of these other categories. You may well want to work with a coach who can help you shift your mindset on something. I've worked with coaches since the Mace Energy Method, and it's an entirely different experience. My protective defenses have dropped. My capacity to take on board their ideas or perspectives has grown. My ability to be part of a reframing experience and to actually go, oh yeah, that makes sense at a deep level, not just an intellectual, oh yes, that logically makes sense. Like to truly have it land in you and go, oh yeah, that way of seeing it entirely helps. That entirely changes the picture. You may still love to go on meditations and retreats, and you may still love to exercise. You may still love to do yoga as I do, but it's not in the need of anything. It's in the enjoyment of the thing. It's in the expression of the thing. It's because it's just something you like to do. You aren't going to be in suppressing and avoiding as like category 2, but you are going to find you're happier. Your overall experience of life is happier, more positive, more joyful, more of an optimistic outlook. Clients often say towards the end, they feel more optimistic, they feel more possibilities, they feel more. And so category 2 is still present, but in a very natural sense. It's no longer I best put on that happy face to feel good and to try and like cover over all the bad feeling stuff. It becomes a natural expression of joy and happiness, which is always what that was trying to achieve, but just it can't do it when it's covering over the poop. And then the last one, the compensation one, you may still enjoy coffee. You may still enjoy energy drinks. You may still enjoy alcohol. You might even still enjoy microdosing. I don't know, because you're unique. And so you're going to be on your own unique journey. But one of the things that really struck me when I was reading, now I can't remember if it was John Mace's book or whether it was part of our training, but he talked about how alcohol itself is not the problem. And that somebody who's cleared of any addictive negative identities can enjoy a glass of wine and can then say, well, or one or two or three, however many is right for them, and then say, yeah, that was nice. Thank you. I enjoyed that wine. That's enough. When we're at the behest of a negative identity, it leads us into more and more and more and never enough. There is never enough. Hence where misuse comes in or abuse of any substance or consumption. And so we've done the opposite way round with Mace Energy Method as the number 1. You can then absolutely enjoy whatever your favorite foods and drinks are. It's at a reasonable level, at a healthy level. So I hope you're seeing with this how by flipping this 1 to 5, we start by starting with what is currently 5, the Mace Energy Method, the thing that people tend to come to last at the moment. What I'm here to advocate for is, oh my goodness, come to this first. Please come to this first. Apart from anything else, you'll find the process a hell of a lot easier when you do, because you're not carrying baggage from all the stuff that you've already tried. If you have tried stuff, don't worry, that doesn't circumvent anything. But really, I'm here to advocate for number 5 being first. Then you see what of numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 you want to do from a place of groundedness, from a place of power, from a place of choice, not a place of need. So let me move on to the final slide so that we're not going on too long. Where's my mouse gone? There we go. To bring this into that visual metaphor of the garden. So I want you to consider that garden and the fact that if you were planting a garden, the first thing you would do, so let's say brand new garden, but it's been left untended for a good while, you're going to have weeds in there. And so the logical thing to do in a garden, if you're going to plant nice plants and flowers, is you weed the garden first, tend to the soil, and then you plant your lovely new plants, seeds and trees and whatever else you want to plant. That is the same principle as what I'm talking about here. That's why I'm saying Mace Energy method first to deal with the weeds, then do the other stuff if you want to. Then plant whatever flowers and bushes, because that's your creativity. The planting of your garden is your expression of your creativity, is the expression of your uniqueness into the world, in whatever form that takes, whether it's creating a new business, whether it's doing more charity work, whether it's investing in places that are supporting the health of the planet, whether it's doing more with your family and enjoying that. Whatever it is doesn't matter. You've got your own unique way, and that unique garden of yours that you want to plant becomes ever more obvious when you've actually weeded the weeds out to start with. So if we take this weed as the analogy for the negative identities, we're going to move through each of those 5 categories again to show the role that each of them are playing. Now that you've got that context from the last slide, this should all click into place. So the compensation category, where we try and consume something to feel better. And this one kind of always makes me laugh, because could you imagine actually pouring coffee on a weed thinking it would help it grow? Could you imagine pouring alcohol on a weed thinking it will help it grow? We just wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it to your pets, and yet we do it to ourselves. And so it's kind of, when you look at it in this context, it's like, that's nuts. Why would I think to do that? Why would I think nature needs a stimulant like a cup of coffee in order to feel better? Like, we just wouldn't. You just wouldn't. And we are that nature. So the same as you wouldn't pour coffee on a weed to get rid of it, or to feel better about the weed, or to, certainly you wouldn't pour coffee on the weed thinking it's going to solve it. Who knows? In fact, maybe let's try this. Maybe pouring coffee on weeds actually helps them grow, given that weeds are really incredible. Like, they're incredibly successful plants. Anyway, what we do as a person is we try and compensate for the fact there's a weed there by pouring in coffee and thinking that then that's going to make it feel better. It's not going to help. You're just pouring coffee on a weed. That's actually got me curious now. I'm thinking a weed might actually thrive on coffee. For a while, at least, for a while. So then category 2, the suppressing and avoiding category. This is like trying to stick a flower on the weed and pretending that it's a flower. So you want to have this beautiful, bountiful garden, but rather than weeding the garden and then planting the flowers, you're trying to manually stick flowers onto the weeds in the hope that nobody notices there's actually a weed, in the hope that the flower lasts. Like, of course it's not going to last. In the hope that, yeah, somehow the flower grafts onto the weed and becomes an actual flower. It does not work, does it? It does not work. And so same as our suppressing, avoidance tactics, trying to put a happy, capable facade on top of what feels terrible, it does not work. You cannot put a flower on a weed and pretend it's a flower. It does not work. So then category 3, the escape category. And I've put this up here because of the fact when we're doing meditation or yoga, we are going into that much bigger aspect of who we are, that spiritual nature of who we are, our beingness. And it does feel like floating. It's open, it's spacious, it's cloud-like. It's lovely. Of course, from the previous slide, we know that if it's used as a need to, then it's going to show up its cracks. And that's why it also, therefore, does not help with our weed. Because if we're just to escape to the clouds all the time, would being a cloud help deal with a weed? No. It just means you're looking at the weed from a different angle, from a further distance. But seeing a weed from a further distance doesn't disappear the weed. The clouds out here in the sky right now, they're not making my weeds in my garden disappear. Would be amazing if they did. But they're not. Same as meditation, it can lighten layers, but it does not deal with the actual core problem of the weed. Hence why escape category options do not work with solving this negativity. So then our manage and cope approach, the reframing, the mindset work, the breath work, the if I could just manage to live with this, if I could just cope with this better, then I'd be okay. But what we're doing at that level is really just trying to prune the leaves. Well, if I could cut off this negative weed, this negative leaf, and replace it with a positive leaf, a more helpful belief, a reframe, a positive mantra, then that would be okay. If I could somehow, in fact, the shears don't really work with this, but if I could breathe in this moment, then maybe that leaf will just drop off and that will deal with the weed. Doesn't work, does it? We've all tried pulling the leaves off weeds, sometimes accidentally, and trying to deal with it properly. I've certainly done that plenty of times. Pull the leaves off, look at that, more leaves just grow. So this managing and coping category does not actually solve the problem either. Whereas the MACE method does. It clears these weeds, these negative emotional weeds at the root. Delete, discreate, eliminate, rub out, whatever word you want to use. It clears it, it cleans it out, gets it out of your world. Same as when you actually dig up a weed by the roots, gone. Gone forever. That particular weed will never grow back again because you've dealt with it at the root level. And that's always been my passion. It's why my business is called Wild Fig Solutions, the wild fig with the deepest roots in the world. I have always, my whole journey has been a mission to solve our emotional problems at the deepest level. And this MACE method absolutely does that. By dealing with these weeds at their root, by digging them up at their root. That's how we solve our emotional problems. Then, any of these other categories that you enjoy, go for your life. But at the very least, you clear and clear and clear your garden of weeds so that you can plant and plant and plant exactly what you want to plant in the world and see that grow and flourish. And does that mean sometimes that having cleared a weed, you then spot another one? Absolutely. And that's why people continue having sessions. But that distinction again with those other 4 categories is that in the continuation of sessions, things get better and better and better. Because with every weed that you clear fully at the root with the MACE method, you clear more space for planting beautiful plants. With all these other methods, all you're doing is exposing the roots. None of them are going to deal with the root. So if you try and plant your plants, the weed's just going to sprout again and crowd out your plants, or at the very least not make it as an enjoyable garden to look at. Clear the weeds. This one's gone. Good. Plant a plant. That weed doesn't come back. Dig another weed. That weed's gone. Plant another plant. That weed doesn't come back. Instead, the flowers, the bushes, the trees, they grow. They amplify the good. They amplify the enjoyable. They amplify what you want in your garden instead of continuing to just expose the roots of the weeds that you don't want. So that's everything I'm going to share today on this. I really hope that's given you a strong sense of the whole landscape of ways that people are trying to emotionally heal themselves, why that's not working, and why I am so passionate about people starting with this MACE energy method, which has historically, because it's been around for 20, 25 years, it's historically been used as the last port of call. It was for me. Oh, this is my last ditch attempt. Literally, that's what I was saying. If this doesn't work, that's it, I'm out. And that's how it's been used for this last 20 plus years, as like a final port of call. Oh, well, nothing else has worked, so might as well try this. It sounds like a good thing. I don't know why. I feel drawn to it. It seems like a smart move. And it is. But what I really want is for more people to realize it's a really blooming smart move to do that first. Because it doesn't require any previous experience. It doesn't require any past knowledge of any of these other ways and approaches. What it will do is unlock your ability to make the most of any of those other approaches. It will unlock your capacity to plant an amazing garden, perhaps even more amazing than you've already planted, because you'll actually enjoy it. because that feeling of enjoyment is the feeling of the absence of weeds. So even if on the outside you've been planting this amazing life of family and house and business and money and it's not feeling great, good job on planting that garden in spite of your negativity. Now you get to weed out the negativity, actually enjoy the garden you've created, and who knows what else you'll want to plant, who knows what else you'll want to make real in your world. So thank you everyone who was able to make this live at last minute notice with the change from the live stream. Really, really appreciate you being here. Thank you for those who've contributed in the chat as well. And I wish you well. So I'm here for those who are, like I was, high achieving, capable, dynamic, but slapping lots of smiley faces on top of what felt frankly awful. Self-doubt was my friend for most of my life. Not friend, of course. It created uncertainty, it created tentativeness, it had me hold back. I was afraid of being in trouble, so I wouldn't speak up for myself. People on the outside wouldn't have seen any of this, but I felt it. I felt it on the inside, and that's where it matters. And so if that's you, if you're one of those like me, high achieving, capable, dynamic, doing all the right stuff from the outside, looking all good from the outside, while inside going, oh my God, this feels awful, then you're exactly the kind of person I love to work with. There is also a global community of practitioners. So if you're not that match for me as a client, there are about 50 other practitioners across the world, and I guarantee there'll be somebody there who's a match for you. So given this will be on YouTube now, or it'll be in my newsletter, wherever you're watching this, there'll be links to book on for your foundations sessions, which is the very first step everybody takes with their MACE Energy Method journey. You'll be able to see ways to get in touch with me, ways to connect, newsletters to subscribe to. I'll put all the relevant links below. Lots of ways to reach out, lots of ways to connect and get to know me better, lots of ways to research into the MACE Energy Method, and absolutely the link if you want to take the leap into category 5 first, start bucking the trend, start being those people who are at the front of this wave, because this is coming. You know, the state of the world we're in, we cannot keep going the way we are. And the time for this MACE Energy Method to really flourish and bloom across the world is coming. We're at the very front of this wave right now. So if you want to catch this wave early, now is the time to dive in and do that. Be the ones who buck the trend, be the ones who start to shift the narrative, who start to do the 180 on what the rest of the world are doing. Be the outlier, be the, oh, what's the word? There's a word that just keeps going. Let me just use entrepreneur. Be the one who takes the step first. Be the one who leads and shows that this is the best way, as you've seen from today. It is the best way to get yourself back in your power as fast as possible, with as little cost as possible, compared to the journey that I went on. And I really look forward to meeting you. So yeah, thank you to those in the chat. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. And I'll see you very soon. Take care.